When I was a kid in junior high, we're talking early 70s, I had a friend Dave, and we would go camping all the time. We would ride our 10 speeds out to, the forested edge of the city and set up a little camp and camp there. Did that many times. So Dave and I decided we are going to build a little fort because, just our little pup tents aren't secure enough. We wanted to build a fort. So we chopped up a bunch of dead trees. We didn't want to use live trees. We didn't want to kill things. So we used dead logs, and we chopped them to length, and we built this little rectangular fort. And it was about 4 feet high on the inside, probably about 6 or 7 feet long on the base by about 5 feet wide on the base. We had spent all summer building this thing. Every weekend that we could get away, we would go out and build this fort. We even had a name. It was called Twin Stock, because we found two women's nylon stockings in the ditch somewhere. We tied it on a pole and it blew in the wind, so we called it Twin Stock. One weekend, I wanted to go camping. Dave couldn't make it that time. It was me and Wayne, I think it was, or me and Scott. I forget who was with me. So the two of us, we rode our bikes out, and we had just arrived, and it was a fairly long ride. Well, not long by some standards, but for us it was it was about a half an hour bike ride. So we got out there, and we were on our bikes, so we put our bikes down, got our backpacks, and I remember I brought my backpack in, and then my friend, I put his backpack inside. I decided I was going to light a fire because we had a little fire pit inside. And we also had used a hay bale to insulate it. So we had hay sticking in all the cracks and all along the roof. So I decided I'm going to light a fire. Now, I was really good at lighting a fire. So I got my paper crumpled up, put my little twigs on top of the paper, and then a little bit bigger logs on top of that. So then I had matches with me, so I lit the paper. So it starts to burn, and I'm kind of happy with the way things are going. And the fire gets bigger, and then I noticed that it was getting kind of smoky inside the fort. So I decided, hey, well, how come it's so smoky in here? And I looked up, and I realized that we had neglected to put a chimney inside the fort. We didn't even have a hole for the smoke to escape. Not only that, but we had hay hanging down through all the cracks between the logs. So there's all of the ends of this hay and straw. Well, that stuff caught like flash paper. The flames went up the wall and over my head within seconds. And I'm starting to scream, get out, get out, get out. Well, I'm the only one in there, but our backpacks are in there. So I throw our backpacks out the door. I climb out the door. We had no fire extinguishers. The only water we had was, a little bit in our drinking canteens. It was the dark of night. We took off, and we're riding our bikes back home. And those flames were probably 75 feet high. So we could see that. Like, it was so obvious, you could see it for miles around. So we rode our bikes all the way home. My friend took off to his house, didn't know what to do. I went home, and then I told my dad, because I didn't want the whole forest to burn down and then houses to catch fire. So I figured I better tell my dad. So I told my dad, I said, hey, I lit my fort on fire, and I don't know what else happened. So me and Dad got in the work truck, and Dad drove out to where the fort was. We couldn't find it. It was completely black of night, and the flames had all disappeared. So he said, well, it must be burned out. Let's go home. So I went home. The following weekend, it had snowed during the week, and I went back out there by myself the next weekend, and the fort was completely gone. It was completely consumed. But what was weird was the ground had melted in a path, like a kind of a river. In all the snow, in all of the bushes, there was just this path of melted snow. So I dug down a little bit and I found there was a coal seam. It was either a coal seam or peat or something like that that was burning underneath the ground. And I had revisited that site maybe 3 years later. It was still burning in the winter. It was still melting snow on the surface from the fire that had been burning for years underground. That was my adventure one fall night in the early 70s. More stories to come.